Amateur Traveler is in its 20th year now, but can you imagine if I had people on the show who had never been to the destination but had just read about it or seen a movie about it? That wouldn't make any sense at all, and you wouldn't listen. We all know how important it is to receive advice from people who know a destination to get the most authentic local experience. And a great option for experiencing this is Explore Worldwide and their authentic small group adventures, led by local tour leaders, perfect for solo travelers who want to meet like minded people with a desire for adventure. I'm often an independent traveler, but two of my last three trips were with small group tours because they organize everything and it's a lot easier. If you want to recreate the tour I did to Malta, they have a Malta and Gozo Discovery Tour. I'm intrigued by one of their tours called A Taste of Sicily. The company again is Explore Worldwide, and visit exploreworldwide.com to learn more. And thanks to Explore Worldwide for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler. The nights are long, the days are short, and the weather is chilly to downright cold, depending on where you are. It's a good time to slip into a Quince iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters, which start at only $50. You can treat yourself to everyday luxury at an affordable price with Quince. If you really want to dive into luxury, you can check out their leather handbags, washable silk shirts, and European linen sheet sets. Whatever you're looking for at Quince, all the prices are 50 to 80% less than similar brands, and they do that by partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the middleman. They only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing processes. And of course, they use premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. But you've already heard me rave about my Quince travel pants. Treat yourself this winter without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/traveler for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/traveler to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/traveler. And thanks to Quince for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler.
Got my bags packed, I'm on a roll. I'm heading out there and I'm ready to go. I'm looking real good in my passport photo. Oh, no.
Amateur Traveler, episode 634. Today, the Amateur Traveler talks about giant tortoises, beaches, multicolored sand, indentured servitude, street food, and dodos as we go to the island of Mauritius. Welcome to the Amateur Traveler. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. Let's talk about Mauritius. I'd like to welcome back to the show Corinne Vail from reflectionsenroute.com, who's come to talk to us this time about Mauritius. Corinne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And I say welcome back. She was here not all that long ago, episode 599, talking about Madagascar. We're back to the Indian Ocean here, talking about Mauritius. Where is Mauritius, first of all?
Well, Mauritius is this little dot about 1,100 miles east of Madagascar. So I kind of like those African islands.
We're in the same neighborhood, basically.
We are.
And why should someone go to Mauritius?
Mauritius is a beachy, go to the resort, lay on the beach, take the catamaran, have a picnic.
That is usually the pictures I see. Yes, it is.
Exactly. And that kind of drew us to it, except for the fact that's not really our modus operandi. We're more of the cultural, go find the tours, World Heritage Sites, hiking kind of people. But you know what? When you're in the middle of a German winter and it's cold and dark, and then you're thinking beach doesn't sound so bad. So we looked online and there was a direct flight from Munich, and we're saying, we can't beat that with a stick. So Mauritius it was for spring break of this past year, 2018. And what was great about Mauritius is you don't have to do the beach the whole time. We did our fair share of beachiness. We did the catamaran tour. We played with crabs on the beach. I dropped my iPhone into the ocean. Bye-bye iPhone. Things like that. But we also got to do other things because we always rent a car and go around the island. So it was fun.
Excellent. And what itinerary do you recommend?
Well, we were there for a week, and I have to say that's got to be about the perfect amount of time to stay there.
Okay.
Now, if you are one of those people that really can hang out on the beach for more than that, and that's what you love, then you could spend many, many more weeks maybe there. But for us, with a good combination of seeing the sights and enough beach kind of thrown in a little bit every day, it was absolutely perfect. And I wouldn't, for the majority of people, recommend more than that. I think a week.
Okay. And you were home based in one place the whole time?
We were. So as we were researching where to stay, it's got resort after resort after resort from every level that you can imagine. And so there are many people that go there, and you can go to your resort and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They'll take you everywhere you want to go, and you don't have to think. You just need to relax. And that's a good thing to do, but that's not really what we wanted. So we chose a small, very, very small 3-star resort, which 3 stars doesn't sound like much, but it was plenty. And it was great because our breakfast place and the beach was never more than, well, for breakfast, when everybody was there, maybe 40 people. And then on the beach, I don't think I ever saw more than 15 people because people are out doing whatever. To me, that's more relaxing instead of sunbed after sunbed after sunbed full of sunbathers.
And what was the resort that you stayed at, just for people who are doing travel planning?
Sure. We stayed at the Recife Attitude Hotel. And let me tell you, luck would have it, we picked so well because it was enough spread out that, like I said, you had lots of room. It had an infinity pool facing the sunset where, of course, you could get your sundowner and just sit in the pool at the end of the day after traipsing around all the different sites or Port Louis and looking out and watching the sun go down with some fancy little pineapple drink with some local rum in it. Yeah, you can't beat
umbrella,
that.
I assume.
And definitely an umbrella. So I was so good at doing this that there was a couple that came up to me and they said, "Can we take a picture of you and your drink?" And I'm like, "Really? Me? Okay, sure." I said, "Well, where are you from?" Thinking they're bloggers from somewhere. They're like, "We're from Mauritius." I was like, "Oh, okay. And you want a picture of me with the sundowner?" Whatever. Okay, go for it. It was hilarious.
So you mentioned Port Louis, the main city.
Exactly.
You were not staying, it sounds like, in the city itself, but were up in one of the resort areas, which is where?
We were on the West Coast.
Okay.
It was not far from Port Louis. I think it was about a half-hour drive. Nothing's far from anything, really. We're drivers. We want to rent a car and go over and be on our own. And we could have easily done a tour to Port Louis, but we wanted to spend as much time as we wanted there. So it's only about a half hour, and we end up going through Port Louis quite a bit. And from there, of course, you can go and do anything anyway.
Okay.
Also, we were about half an hour south of Grand Bay. And Grand Bay is probably one of the most popular areas for tourists. There's tons of resorts up there. That's where all the boat tours go out of.
Okay.
That's where there's tons and tons of restaurants and expats. And so that was kind of a nice halfway in between the two, so that we had all the amenities of the tourist part of Mauritius as well as the capital and the business and the markets and that kind of thing down in Port Louis. For me, it was perfect.
Okay. And what are we going to do?
So what we did was like you said earlier, that we do World Heritage Sites. So one of the most important World Heritage Sites is called the Apravazi Ghat. And the Apravazi Ghat is how people came to Mauritius to begin with. Mauritius was uninhabited. It was an uninhabited island up until the 1600s when the Dutch finally landed there and decided, hey, we can use this land. And they started growing sugarcane. So the Apravazi Ghat is how 70% of the population still today, their ancestors came to the island. And most of those are from Indian and Southeast Asian and African descent. And they came as either slaves or indentured servants, which is kind of a sad beginning. But luckily for them, they've come a long way and they're a booming well, when I say booming economy, for an African nation, they're doing quite well for themselves now. And they have such a wonderful mix of cultures. And of course, because of those cultures, their cuisines are amazing as well, with curries and rice and just everything tasty.
Well, and getting a little more specific, Opera Vazigat is an immigration depot. So this
It
is
is it's
old
very
stone
similar.
buildings where they came through. Okay.
Old stone buildings, kind of similar to our Ellis Island, where they were docked and they had to go through a registration process, a medical process. Most of them had to stay until someone come pick them up. Like I said, the very beginning, they were either indentured servants or even before that, slaves. So it wasn't necessarily always on the positive side, but they've made it more positive now.
Well, I'm seeing that the depot itself was built in 1849, so that would be after slavery had been outlawed in all of the European nations.
Yeah. At that time, Britain was in charge, and they outlawed slavery in 1839, so right before the Ghat was built. But still, I mean, indentured servants, there was pretty poor conditions.
At least it was temporarily poor conditions. Actually, a lot of people came to the U.S. in the same fashion. A lot of people came over with a 7-year debt to work off to pay off the voyage over, especially in the early years of the U.S. before we were even a country.
Exactly. So that's what Opera Vazigat is.
Okay.
And inside, since it's been updated so that there are interactive displays as well as static displays, and it's a really nice little museum, and it's free.
Okay.
Can't beat that. And it's right in the center of Port Louis, of course, where the harbor is, because that's where the boats came in. And not even a 3-minute walk to the Central Market, which is a bustling market that is, that's a must for everybody to do. Great produce, souvenirs, of course, on the second floor.
And you say great produce other than sugarcane, which used to be on the island. Is there anything that Mauritius is known for now?
I think they're still pretty much known for sugarcane and their rum. But they do grow other things like pineapples and mangoes and things like that. But I mean, you can't beat the profit from rum. So I still think that's one of their main.
Well, and
between
when you're
that
doing
and
a
tourism.
lot of tourism, they go together. So
exactly. So rum.
Okay.
And so you can go visit the rum plantations and the sugarcane fields as well, which we did, and taste the rum. And it's totally different than other places. It's deeper, richer, very, very good. And they also are known for their vanilla. Just the whole area is.
Yeah, I knew Madagascar was. I didn't know that Mauritius had vanilla as well. I once heard a story about someone who was in the food scene in New York City who paid for a trip to Madagascar, the other one, by bringing home a suitcase full of fresh vanilla. That surprised me, but interesting story at least.
Yeah, I'm not sure that their vanilla is quite on the same level as the Madagascar vanilla, but I think if you can go with rum, that's their main producer. And of course, this is the only place in the world that the dodos were known to have lived.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't associate the dodos with Mauritius. Okay.
Yes, I know. Neither did I before I went there. But as it turns out, unfortunately, that's where they went extinct. They're on the seal for Mauritius. And of course, probably every souvenir mentions dodos in some way or form. You can get stuffed dodos on your T-shirt. You can look for dodos, the big statues around the city, things like that. And understandably so.
I used to have a T-shirt that had a dodo, but it was a project T-shirt from work that said adapt, migrate, or die. So it was for a migration project, oddly enough.
Very cool. That seems to work. It's a great place to go, and especially if you're interested in food, because they have some amazing food in Mauritius as well.
Okay.
With that mix of cultures, it's just so good. With a tropical island, you're looking for hot curries and you're looking for cool drinks. And one of our favorite things that we had, and this was at the Central Market in Port Louis, but we had it a couple places after that, is they have this creamy, milky tapioca drink, almost like a milkshake, thin milkshake with tapioca balls. And you would be surprised at how refreshing it was and how cheap it was. For just $1 or something, you can get all kinds of flavors, and it is delicious. So if anybody goes there, they need to have a Luda.
A Luda, okay.
That's right. We took a curry lesson while we were there, and that was pretty fun. It was much different than any other curries that I've had around the world.
I
But
assume that's a curry making lesson.
yes, a curry making lesson.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It's things to do. Cooking lessons are always good because you get to talk to the people and learn about their history.
Mm-hmm.
So the other sites that we saw, they have the multicolored sands called Chamarel. You go through a national park and you see a waterfall, and then you walk around the multicolored sands, and it's really pretty. So that's a nice day trip.
The multicolored sands are just sands of different colors.
They are. Mostly it's because, of course, the iron content. It's a volcanic island.
Okay.
So all of those different chemicals that are in the sand make different colors. It's really pretty.
Okay. And these are not just red sand, blue sand, yellow sand, but a mixture of all different colors. Okay.
Mostly reds.
Mostly
the
reds,
different
yeah.
color reds, and a few yellows. On the red-orange spectrum, I guess, and a few blues in there. So we went on a rainy day because, of course, tropical island. We went on a rainy day, and that was probably a good tip. If you're going to go to Chamarel, pick the rainy day to go because, of course, all the colors were that much more vibrant on that day.
Okay.
Other days, it could be pretty dry, and you're getting a much duller look at the colors of the sand. So I would say as a tip, if you're going to go to the 7-colored earths, go on a rainy day.
Okay.
There was plenty of things to do, but one of the other things that we really enjoyed was going to the botanical gardens, which have been around since the 18th century as well. And they've just been built upon each year and well taken care of. And what they have in there is one of those ponds with the giant lily leaves,
Okay.
which, if you've never seen that, that's a pretty amazing sight. And they were so wonderful there. They even let us use our drone. I've never been in a real site where they'll let you use the drone, but there they let you use the drone, no problem. So that was kind of nice too. We got some great photos of the huge leaves. Since, again, it's so hot and humid there that there's plenty of shade and little pagodas to sit under and a place to eat picnics. And they're selling right outside the gate some street food so that you can take that in with you. The other thing they have in there is the enclosure for the giant tortoise,
Okay.
which is endemic to that area of the world. But of course, they're endangered. So they keep them in this huge enclosure and they feed them right there at the botanical garden. So that was pretty cool as well, getting to see them, and moms and babies and old grandpas that live to be 150 years old.
Okay. So I was looking to see, you said it was hot and humid. We're actually outside the tropics, though.
It's 20 degrees north, so it's just
Yeah.
barely.
20 degrees south, rather.
Is it south?
Yeah.
Okay. 20 degrees south. It is barely outside the tropics, but you can't tell when you're walking around.
Okay.
Other than there's a little bit more of a rainy season in the end of the year versus the other parts of the year. Really, it's hot, it's humid, and it's hot, and it's humid, and then it's humid and it's hot. That's what you're going to get when you go there, which is fine. That's why it's beachy, That's why there's tons of great plants and trees.
Ah, bon chien. Bonjour, je suis Theo, a tour leader with Explore. And this is Punti. He's helping us find truffles under the trees next to this beautiful vineyard. Maybe for tomorrow's cooking class? Oui, col is 7 heures. Parfait. 7 o'clock. Not everyone gets to enjoy a Bordeaux sunset this way, but you will if you explore. No, Punti. Search exploreworldwide.com and don't just travel. Explore.
So the high season is more related to where you're coming from and the seasons there than it is to a particularly good time of year to go in Mauritius.
Well, the good thing about going during the rainy season, which is the end of the year, I think it starts around October to December, that time frame, is that the prices are cheaper because it is rainy. It just really depends on what you're doing. That's the perfect time to go see the colored sands, but it's probably not the most perfect time to go on a catamaran and sunbathe and go to another island and picnic and stuff. So, but if price is an object, then I would go during that time for sure.
Okay.
We just had a great time doing all the things that you do when you're on a beach vacation, as well as they do have some museums, very small museums in Port Louis. They have a very famous stamp that people can go visit at the Penny Museum, and they have a postal museum. They have a natural history museum. They have all the museums that you could go to, and there are lots of things for families to do in that respect. But I think Port Louis is the reason you go there is that you can eat some good food and you can go to the market and you can buy some great souvenirs.
Any particular recommendations for restaurants, dishes, or souvenirs?
Okay, so souvenirs, I would go with anything beachy as far as sarongs and flip-flops and beach bags and dodos. And the thing about going to any market in this area is you're going to haggle for the price a little bit.
Okay.
So we started out, I did buy a sarong there, and I think I got the price down 75% of the original asking, and I still paid too much for it. So because it is a resort area, they really start very, very high with their prices, and they expect you to counter. So it's a good idea to do that. I think the best place for food really is Grand Bay.
Okay.
Because that's where there's a lot of tourists. And we did go to one that really stuck out as a favorite of ours, and it was called the Beach House.
Okay.
It had sand on the floor, and it had a whole bank of windows on the side. And we were there, of course, at sunset. So we sat there through the entire sunset on the harbor, watching the boats come in, watching the sun go down, and having just a really nice meal. I think it was, since it was kind of bar-y food, we had hamburgers and French fries and stuff. But, you know, that's good to do too sometimes. So other than that, my favorite food was the street food.
You mentioned street food. What street food can you get or do you recommend?
They have all kinds of filled chapatis.
That one you're going to have to define. You've got me there.
It's an Indian food. Chapati, it's like a burrito.
Okay.
It's like a burrito, and that's exactly what it looks like. Dal puri, Dhalpuri, which I describe as a burrito-like fried bread wrap.
Okay.
And it has all kinds of eggs and curries and spices, and there's different types as well. And I mean, we're talking less than $1.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't go wrong. Jim and I had a whole meal of this with the aludas for less than $7 for a whole lunch. And it was so delicious. To me, the street food was the best thing to have just because it was so flavorful and cheap and good. And for on the run, everybody just stands right there and eats it. And you can tell which ones are the best because the lines are the longest.
Sure. Yeah. A good trick in most places.
Exactly. Where the locals go, that's where it's good. Other than that, there's a lot of expat restaurants, and we don't typically try tons of those, but the Beach House, I think, was one of the best.
Okay.
And that, again, is location. If you can watch a sunset and have a beer and a hamburger, I mean, who's going to say no to that?
Well, in talking about sites, you mentioned UNESCO World Heritage Site. There are two. Did you get to the other one?
Well, the other one is basically a mountain. The Grand Morne. And yes, you can see it from the beginning. I have many pictures of it. I think I'm sending you one. It's a big mountain, and you can go hiking on it. We didn't hike on it, but we did take a trail driving through it, which was very interesting. It was
a Jeep tour or something of that sort?
No. It was our car.
Your car, okay.
It was just us looking for as far up the mountain as we could go to take photos. And it was a dirt road, and we just were traipsing around it. It was a lot of fun. But they do have marked hiking trails. We did go up to one of the hiking trail parking lots, and they start you out there, and it goes on down to some waterfalls, and there was a circuit and everything. But we did not do that. That day, it was pouring rain, and I didn't want to trip on downslide on the mud. But it was beautiful. Those were the two World Heritage Sites, and yes, we did both of them, of course.
And then in terms of beaches, recommendations?
Some of the best beaches are in the Grand Bay area on the western side. If you're going to stay there, you want to stay on the western side. Mm-hmm. And then it's well known for this beach called Flick and Flack. Flick and Flack. The thing about Mauritius is it's a volcanic island. Mm-hmm. So there are sand beaches, and Flick and Flack is one of the best well-known. You know where there's a good beach because, again, that's where all the cars are parked. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy to see. And while you're there, you get the little buses that'll drop you off everywhere, and you have all the street vendors will come through on their trucks. They don't usually stop there for too long, but they'll honk and sell their food and move on and do their little circuit. But Flick and Flack, the north end of the island is very popular. The south end of the island looks totally different. It's got more palm trees. It's very pretty as well. You can't go wrong. It's an island that's just surrounded with, I think it's like 160 kilometers of coastline. Beautiful. Just beautiful.
Well, and only, 30 miles from end to end, I think?
Very, very small. A lot of people rent scooters, or you could rent a car very cheaply and get around that way. But the other way to get around is they have a bus system, and they also, from any hotel, you can arrange for them to take you literally anywhere you want to go for next to nothing. I think for the US dollar, it's about 34 Mauritian rupees to the dollar.
Okay.
And other than the actual hotel price, which of course is targeted at tourists to begin with, everything is pretty inexpensive. Just renting a car for the day or a driver for the day really isn't going to break anybody's budget. It was really nice.
Okay. What surprised you about Mauritius?
Well, the history. I guess I didn't really realize how that all happened. And I was really excited to find out that here was this uninhabited island. The Dutch come in as the Dutch were traveling all around and conquering places left and right in the 1600s. And they just started this new civilization. And then it went from the Dutch to the French and then to the British. It's just got this fascinating, somewhat tragic in a lot of ways, history. But what's come out of it is this bustling culture that is just surprising in general. Friendly, happy to be there. It's, I guess Southern people are happier anyway. Isn't that what they say? Because they're always warm. I don't know. But it's a very warm and welcoming place. I was also surprised at how many things there were to do. I was a little worried about just having the beach culture where there wasn't much else to do but sit on the beach. And that wasn't true at all. Happily surprised about that.
What else do we need to know before we go to Mauritius, before we get to some of our wrap-up questions?
I think Mauritius as one of the alternatives to, say, the Seychelles or the Maldives, which you're going to spend an outrageous amount of money to get to and stay, is such a fantastic destination for those people who want that beach, romance, relaxation without the cost that is associated with it. It is much cheaper to do it in Mauritius than it is in the Seychelles, guaranteed. Also, Mauritius is a stop on the way to Madagascar and to La Réunion. So if you're looking at doing things in that area, you can easily stop over in Mauritius on your way to something like Madagascar and save a lot of money that way so that you're not spending money two different times.
Well, and one question I have, obviously Madagascar, one reason people go is for the wildlife. We know they had dodos on Mauritius. I don't know what they have today.
The only wildlife we saw, some pretty birds and some snakes, which we didn't see, thankfully. But the only thing that we really saw were the land tortoises.
Okay.
The giant tortoises. They're native to there. But it's so easy for them to get in the way of traffic that they try to put them in the botanical garden or other enclosures to keep them safe.
Okay.
But no, there's not tons and tons of wildlife.
Okay. You're standing in the prettiest spot in Mauritius. Where are you standing? What are you looking at?
I think the northwestern corner, there's a little church, Cap Malheureux, CAPMALHEUREUX. There's a little Hindu temple right there as you're looking across the bay. There's kite surfers that are always there taking advantage of the winds. And it is just stunning. So I would say that is the prettiest part of the island. But, that's all very subjective because that entire island is gorgeous.
When you say taking advantage of the winds, is the eastern side of the island or the northeastern side the windward side of the island then?
I can only assume so. I didn't really look into it that closely, but There were always kite surfers there, and they're doing fantastic jumps and tricks. And we sat there for a good 30 minutes just watching them because how cool is that? You can do it yourself too, but we enjoyed watching them.
Okay. One thing that makes you laugh and say only in Mauritius.
I can't think of anything that makes me laugh.
Just in general, the life is not impressing you these days.
No. It's not that it's not impressive. It's just that it's very Indian in flavor.
Sure.
There's lots of things you can say about India, but Mauritius was governed by the British for so long, and they are completely separate and had a little bit more money, and so they don't have those idiosyncrasies as much anymore that I noticed.
Okay.
They're just it's just a pleasant place. We didn't run into anything that made us roll our eyes or anything like that. No. It's just comfortable.
Okay. Well, and in answer to the question of the predominant direction from the wind is from the east, south, and northeast. So it's somewhere over from the east-northeast to east-southeast.
So maybe that's what it is. From the east and northeast, where Camp Melrose is right on the tip there.
Well,
you're getting that crosswind.
Yeah, you gave me that hint when you said all the good beaches are on the west side, that probably the east side was going to be windier, and then that means that the tip, where the winds are going to get through, is going to be a good place for kite surfing. So that's kind of why I guessed that was the case.
Well, you were
Excellent.
Right.
And in summary, if you had to summarize Mauritius in 3 words, what 3 words would you use?
Stunning.
Okay. When you said stunning, one thing we haven't said, we've talked about a couple mountains, and you said it's volcanic. So this is a hilly place. This is not a flat island, but for a small island, a lot of topography, let's say.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Very hilly. It's only flat in a few areas. And no matter where you go, you're going to be going up and down and around.
Okay.
It's so volcanic that the mountains are nice and they're jagged, and I guess mountain is a strong word, but the hills, they're jagged and they're very prominent, and there's lava rocks around the areas. I mean, it really is beautiful.
That was your first word. Your second word is?
Comfortable, because it's such a comfortable place to do anything, whether you're walking or shopping or talking to people or eating. It's just so welcoming.
Okay.
And then my last one, let's just say flavorful.
Okay.
I mean, I love food. So anytime you can put in a curry and some dal and wrap it up in a little bit of flour, no, it's good. It's delicious.
Excellent. Well, our guest again has been Corinne Vail from reflectionsenroute.com. And if we wanted to send people to your best post on Mauritius, what are we going to send them to?
I would probably start with the relaxed way to enjoy Mauritius with a cultural day trip to Port Louis.
Excellent. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. Thanks so much for coming back on Amateur Traveler and sharing with us your love for Mauritius.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
If everything goes according to plan and you are listening to the show when it first comes out, I should be in Japan and on my way to Botswana. If that sounds cool, remember we still have that trip planned, so you could come with me to South Africa, Botswana, and Victoria Falls in May of 2019. Go to amateurtraveler.com/Africa 2019 for more information, or to amateurtraveler.com/trips to help plan the trip for 2020. With that, we're going to end this episode of Amateur Traveler. If you have any questions, send an email to host@amateurtraveler.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at amateurtraveler.com. If you don't want to miss a show, remember to subscribe, and thanks so much for listening.